Would you have guessed that this pattern is the same as this one? That's right, it's Amy here, and today we're talking about pattern hacking. This is McCall's 7948, but this time I moved the keyhole from the back to the front and added little ruler loop ties. Then I added a small elastic hem to the sleeves just to keep them nice and tight. And I added a frill to the bottom of the skirt for a bit of extra swish. This is McCall's 7948 with a square neckline hack. I chopped off the sleeves nice and short, and then I played with adding stripes in between the tiers of the skirt. And this pattern is the same as this pattern. This is Butterick 6806. So I think I rounded off the neckline, I removed the little notch. I think I straightened the sleeves so they were more tapered. And then I think I levelled the hem. I think that's all I did on this one. It's a great little dress. This is Butterick 606 with a V-neck. It's got the original sleeves. And then I had a lot of fun adding ruffled tiers to the skirt. So I slashed the skirt apart so I could insert this ruffle and then added another ruffle to the hem for a lot of fun. McCall's 7969 is one of my absolute favourites to hack, and I'm going to show you why. Here it is, straight out of the packet. It's got the View B sleeves and I added a little elastic cuff. That's the only slight change that I made to this straightforward version. On this version, I cropped off the sleeves and then I added a row of shearing elastic just to create this little sort of puffed hem effect. Perfect for summer. This is a much loved hack of McCall's 7969. There's lots of tutorials out there, I've got one too. You essentially remove the V-necked wrap front by using the centre front line as a place on fold line, rounding off the neckline and finishing it with bias binding, and you've got a totally different front bodice. I kept the short sleeves, I added elastic hem channel to these ones for that same puffball effect. It's a really easy to wear dress. I wear it in summer with sandals and then I wear it in winter with tights and cardigans. I love this dress, that's why it's very well worn. This one's a lot of fun. It's the same View B sleeves with a little elastic hem added, the View B skirt with a little ruffle at the bottom, and then I took that bodice that was cut on the fold, drafted it more into a scoop neckline, created a keyhole and keyhole facing, and then extended the bias into a little bow tie. And since I loved it so much, I thought why not add a second bow at the base of the keyhole for some extra fun. This is a Liberty twill print and it's great in winter. I made this for Pattern Hackathon 2024. It has the sleeves of Simplicity 9605, I think it is. I added the ruffle from that pattern and then drafted a second ruffle that was slightly bigger to create this double ruffle effect. I used the bodice from Butterick 6806, yes, the pattern we were talking about earlier, with that V neckline hack. And then I used the skirt from McCall's 7948. Yes, we were talking about that earlier as well, weren't we? Because it was gathered, I could use it to match the oversized bodice of 6806 so that the drawstring effect would still work because it's gathered in even further that way. Whenever I'm encouraging people to get started with pattern hacking, I say take the same brand or family of brands and try mixing the pattern pieces together. So Big Five are all drafted from the same block. So you could take the sleeve from one pattern and put it onto the bodice of another, or take your favourite dress bodice and add on a totally different skirt. Of course, you've got to keep things in mind, like you couldn't put a raglan sleeve onto a round bodice armhole, or you have to pick the right size in each pattern pack to make sure they're going to fit. But this is a really great way to dip your toe into pattern hacking. The other things that you can do is we've talked about neckline changes. So you saw me turn a round neck into a V-neck, a round neck into a square neck, and a wrap bodice into a round neck. So a few different variations there. You can play with neckline pieces, either drafting your own facings or copying them from another pattern, like I did for my square necked McCalls, tracing the pattern pieces to make a new set for your hack. That's quite a fun way to play around. The other thing you could do is play around with sleeves. We've kind of touched on making them longer, making them shorter. You can also use a slash and spread method to cut apart your tissue and add extra gathers or flare at the hem. This is really fun, and there's lots of tutorials out there if you want to get started with this. I would definitely recommend playing with sleeves. Just don't necessarily mess too much with the cap if you want to keep that easy fit into the armhole bodice. What else can you do? Length, kind of touched on. You could turn a top into a dress by extending it into a long shift style. Similarly, you could take a longer dress and crop it to make a top. You could add a button front to a plain bodice by slashing it down the centre, adding an extension for the button placket, and create something very different. You could add extra tiers onto a top to make a gathered tiered dress. There's some great ideas in there. Hopefully you can start to think a bit more creatively when you look at your patterns. Taking part in something like a hackathon challenge can help push your skills, see what other people are doing, get inspired by their makes, and take part next year. If you really want to get adventurous, take a look at my pattern hackathon entry for 2025, where I added a more advanced lacing tab technique to a simple dress to elevate it. You can get really creative with appliques and trims and details. If you've already nailed the base pattern, get creative with a hack that embellishes the pattern. You don't need a lot of crazy tools to get into pattern hacking. I've just got 2 recommendations that might make it a bit smoother for you. The first is tissue paper. So we're talking about the semi-translucent, lightweight tissue paper that you get in our sewing patterns, in the Simplicity brand patterns. And you can use these to trace copies of pattern pieces that you want to alter, or use it to add on extensions to like add extra length, etc., and it'll be the same weight as the original pattern piece. I use these 3 kind of pattern packs. So this Palmer Plesh paper comes in imperial sizing. It has gridded lines on it that help you with measurements, like if you know you're extending by 3 centimeters or 3 inches, should I say, an imperial, you can use the grid lines to do that evenly. Similarly, this Burda tissue paper is in metric sizing, so centimeters, so that might be your preference. They're 2 quite good packs of tissue. And then Burda also do a completely plain tissue, which is great for tracing, etc. Even their magazine patterns, you can use that for tracing. So tissue paper I find great for creating a blank slate pattern piece that you can hack and adjust and see all your changes a bit more clearly. The other thing I recommend is maybe upgrade your rulers. So a nice long strong ruler that you can use to draw new clean lines on your pattern pieces. That's going to be really handy. And if you don't have one, a French curve can be quite handy. This is a larger one. They come in all different sizes for tight or longer curves, and this can help you with redrawing necklines, drawing curved waist seams, etc. And it just kind of mimics the natural curve that you see on pattern pieces. So yeah, I've got a set of 3 in blue that were pretty cheap to pick up. A nice strong Perspex ruler might be a bit more expensive, but well worth it. I hope you liked this intro to pattern hacking. Maybe it inspired you to give it a go. Give me a thumbs up and maybe subscribe so you don't miss the next video. I'll be back next week, so I'll see you then. Thanks everyone.